What's up guys, today's deck profile is going to be on Alice the Saint of Healing. I wanted to make sure I was using soldiers in this version because I didn't have them in the original one, so I kind of thought of a way I can incorporate them while not really hindering the deck. This idea that I'm using isn't 100% original, it's actually like totally borrowed from Epunk, who of course everyone knows as one of the greatest players in all of Force at Will. He's the guy that's on the cover of the Dark Grim if you guys have seen the alternative art. I don't have mine on me right now or else I'd show you, but yeah, so this is kind of an Alice world deck, and I kind of took his idea of what Resonators to use and kind of what his angle was for it, and kind of thought that a soldier would be kind of a really easy race to get in the field because of Deep Blue. That would also further lower the cost of Alice's world. And then of course, I explained in my Valkyrie video that when you J-activate Alice, you can tap it at the same time to search for Deep Blue, and discarding Deep Blue produces mana, so I figured that'll actually help make kind of Alice World's cost a lot lower as well, especially because it produces blue, so it's not really hard to get 2 blue in this deck at all, but for any means, if you somehow open like a bunch of light greens, because it is light green, blue green, and I have a Moonshade and a light blue in here, but if you did open like let's say only 1 light blue and then you hit 4 light greens in a row, you can actually use the Deep Blue to produce the blue that you need for Alice's World, because it's 2 blue and 6 colorless. And if you do get the 6 colorless but you can't pay the 2 blue, that would kind of like be a really big bummer. So Deep Blue fixes that problem too. So yeah, it's an Alice World deck using Alice as the ruler, of course. I thought it'd be great because, like I said, not only does she search the Deep Blue on enter, but as your turns keep going through by using Alice's World, Alice can just protect your Resonators with her God ability if at one point your opponent does seem a little too pressured and might want to use something like a Stoning to Death or something. So if you attack with everything and they're like, okay, you know, this is manageable damage, I'll just take it. You then play Alice's World and they're like, okay, now I'm kind of in trouble. If they don't attempt to kill any of your creatures at this point, you can of course start your turn all over again, deactivate Alice, you get Deep Blue in your hand, and you can even use your God ability to protect everything and draw 3, hopefully even hitting another Alice World. So there's just a lot of things that kind of goes for, and it's kind of like the whole sense of keep getting an extra turn and beating down with all your little Resonators and Gwibers. So a quick look at Alice herself. Her first effect is to pay 2 and a target Resonator gains 0 plus 1000 until the end of turn. We saw with the Little Red and Granny combo that having a really big defense actually makes a really big difference in the meta. Having a plus 1000 to any of the low Resonators in this deck, especially the soldiers, actually is really great because you can still use them as blockers without fearing that you're going to be losing race if they were to die. So essentially, if you do put this in the field early against anything that's maybe not Blazer, of course, and you're just kind of tapping for a stone every turn while having all your mana open, if they attempt to attack directly, you can just pay, let's say, the 2, give a simple soldier 1000 defense, and then block with 1200 because they're all, I think, 200 defense. So it's actually a really good first effect. I like that stalling with those little soldiers or anything, even like a Familiar of the Holy Wind or a Jeanne of Arc, the Vingolf one. Normally you don't want to block with her because it means that you would have her get destroyed and then you can't build up to 5 creatures for her buff, which I'll get into explaining those cards more thoroughly when I get to them, but now she keeps her safe. And in a situation where you do buff Jeanne and she still dies, you'd now heal 1200 life because she gains life equal to the defense when destroyed. So I think Alice actually combos really well with that. And then her second effect is to tap her and target Resonator you control gains untargetable by spells and abilities. This one is an amazing effect, but it's going to be a lot harder to use because if you do put Alice on the field early anyway, you're going to want to keep tapping for stones because you really need stone buildup. But late game it's actually really great if they don't get to remove her off the field. And then her God Art is to pay a blue and green mana, and any Resonator or J-Resonator I control cannot be targeted by spells or abilities until the end of turn, and I draw 3 cards. So for those who play Yu-Gi-Oh, that's a graceful charity essentially. That's just incredible to be able to draw 3 right away while keeping everything totally safe. So I think this Alice is really great. I was really stuck on how I wanted to build her, and then when I kind of realized that Eponk's kind of Alice World idea would go great with this deck, I got really excited because it actually sounds like a really good plan. And then for the Magic Stones, I have 1 Magic Stone of Light Vapors. Light green and blue green are the main colors of the deck, but I wanted to have kind of the off colors, so light and blue fused in because I really needed as much access to it as I could. I also have 1 Magic Stone of Moonshade because I was going to double up on this, but I have Elvish Priest and I didn't want to risk having this really early in the turn, but I also didn't want 2 of these because there is a lot of 1-drops, which means you'd have to be forced to pay this as the actual color and not as colorless. So I figured having 1 to pay occasionally would be fine, but I didn't want 2 Moonshades, and then I didn't want 2 of Light Vapors because I couldn't produce green. So I just went with 1 and 1. And then 4 Magic Stone of Gusting Skies for light green. This is because there is a ton of light monsters in the deck, and then there's actually a really big side deck for light as well. And then 4 Magic Stone of Deep Wood, sorry, I've been saying Deep Blue so much, everything's just Deep Blue now, but Magic Stone of Deep Wood for blue-green. The Resonator lineup in this deck is huge. I was trying to fit as many great 1-drops as I could while having a bunch of deck thinning. I have 3 Elvish Priests instead of 4 because although a 4th one would still help me see it early, and it would still go towards the cost of lowering for Gwiber, I don't like 4 Priests anymore in any deck, even if it's pure green. I just feel like you almost always draw it at a really bad time and it feels really, really dead. So I thought 3 would be just fine. 4 Cheshire Cats, of course, because you need to dig for those Gwibers as fast as you can, as well as Alice Worlds. Same argument for Familiar of Holy Wind. These are just really great to thin out your deck as fast as you can and get all the cards you need. I'm only running 3 Jeannes because I do have a decent amount of light in the deck, but I didn't want to risk having 4 of these and seeing maybe 2 of them in my early hand after Mulligan, and maybe not hitting a light green as fast as I would hope, because it does happen. So I thought, just 3 would be fine. Plus, you do see it really often with the 8th inning from all the cats. And Jeanne, of course, gains 8/8 as long as I control 5 or more Resonators. And then whenever she's put into the graveyard from my field, I gain life equal to its defense. So once again, if let's say I have Alice and Jeanne, and I'm swinging with Jeanne for 1,000, and they don't want to take the 1,000, so they're stoning her. In response, if I use Alice's effect to give her 1,000 defense, she'd become 2,000 defense, and then when they stoning and kill her, you'd gain 2,000 life, which is just ridiculous. At that point, especially if you're at a really high life count and you have a really decent board even, it's going to be really hard for them to come back before you set up another possible combo for Alice's World. So Jeanne's just an incredible Resonator. She really helps you push for game. And then I run 4 Perceval. The only target for Perceval is Deep Blue and other copies of Perceval, but I'm actually totally okay with grabbing more copies of Perceval this time around because Alice can already search Deep Blue anyway, and this is mainly just for the deck thinning. Grabbing Deep Blue with Perceval is actually a priority. You wouldn't grab another copy of Perceval over Deep Blue, but my point is if you happen to miss and maybe only see a Perceval or nothing at all, it should be okay because you can manually search Deep Blue with Alice's ruler side anyway. So I normally don't like using 4 Percevals if I only have 4 Regalias and no other knights, but it was kind of a sacrifice I was also willing to make because he's a Knight of the Round Table, which is a different race compared to everything else, so I really like the idea behind that. I have 2 Alice's Little Scout because she's a soldier. On destruction, she lets me draw a card. 2 Alice's Little Force. The reason why I actually run this card as well as 2 Alice's Little Guardian is for Alice's Little Assault Force, it contributes itself to do 200 damage to target player or Resonator, and Alice's Little Guardian can banish it to prevent all damage that would be dealt by a target Resonator. Why these are so great actually is because leaving the field is something you want to do with these. Alice's World reads that if you have the same race on the field, it doesn't count towards its total reduction of cost. So if I had 2 soldiers, you wouldn't get -1. It just wouldn't count at all. So if let's say you have an Alice's Little Scout, which is underneath this one, and she's a soldier, and then you also happen to summon one of these for free, you're no longer getting -1, but you can simply just banish an Assault Force to do 200 free damage, and now you only control 1 soldier, which would be the Little Scout. Same with this one. You can, if they let's say have a flyer and you're going to go in with your Gwibers, you can banish this to prevent damage from the other flyer, so when it blocks Gwiber, they can't follow up with like a Demon Flame or a Flame of the Outer World or anything like that, because he wouldn't have taken enough damage for him to die. And then you also would get him off the field so that you only control 1 soldier. So I actually like the concept of that they can banish themselves because it helps me fix the count on the field. 1 Speaker of Creation. This can search a field spell on its summon, so it can grab Alice's World. I do play 4, but sometimes I feel like thinning out for a specific copy once I've already used one is really great, so I threw 1 in. Not to mention it's ancient, so the second one's even easier to use. And then 4 Gwiber, because it is the main win condition. Essentially, you play Gwibers, you try to go in for some damage, play Alice's World, and just keep flying in and getting as much damage in as you can. leaving them with no response because he's a flyer and they just can't afford to have as many blockers as they would hope. And Alice World just keeps resetting your turn and you keep getting that damage in. For what's left, it's just a couple spells. I have 4 Deep Blue, of course, to summon those soldiers. It's a really easy way to get a race onto the field. Deep Blue can produce red and green, but the green can, the blue can be nice. You can discard it to produce blue, like I said. For Alice's World, and just to use it as even colorless is really great as well. Like I said, being able to search this up, Alice's J-Activate just kind of gives you a free minus on Alice's World cost 2, because you could just pitch it. And then when you use the draw 3 effect, you can hit another Alice World, so it's just really incredible. I think Deep Blue actually really complements this deck. For Alice's World, for anyone that kind of has been confused this whole time about me talking about it, so for each Resonator you control that doesn't control the same race as another Resonator on the field, this card's total cost is reduced by 1, but just a colorless cost, so it can't cost 0. So if you have, let's say, a Cheshire, a Familiar, a Jeanne, Speaker of Creation, and a Gwiber, this would be 5 Resonators, and this would only cost 3. And what it does is, on enter, you take another turn after this one. So essentially, you would summon a bunch of Resonators, and then let's say when you end your turn, your opponent can't do anything. They, play their turn, whatever. It's not as aggressive, I guess, as yours, because you have a lot of 1-drops, so you're filling up the field faster than them just normally playing the game and using, 2-drops and 3-drops and whatever. And so you fill up your field with 1-drops. If there's Jeannes in there, that they're all slowly going to get pumped up once you have 5 Resonators, and you're making Gwibers cost only 1, so you can drop your Gwibers for free. So then you play Alice's World, attack with whatever you have on your field. Make sure you don't attack with anything that could possibly be destroyed, because then you're going to be losing a chance to follow up with another Alice World. But let's say you have 1 Gwiber. You attack with Gwiber, and let's say you can get an attack from Jeanne in, that's 2200 damage. You play Alice's World, you then start your turn all over again. You draw, untap, all your Resonators untap, and then you just go in for Gwiber again, and go in for Jeanne again. And you just keep doing this with all the deck thinning from Cheshires and Familiars, constantly drawing new cards, and trying to get more Alice's World or more races to make other copies of Alice's World in your hand cost less while you flood the field. And then you just continuously do this until you can get game. And the only thing to note is, please remember that at any point, if you have 2 Cheshires in the field or 2 Familiars in the field, it doesn't count towards the cost, because it counts as you have 2 of the same race on the field. So you have to have like 1 and 1 and 1 and 1 and 1. It seems really difficult, but honestly, when you actually keep out for it while you have Alice World in your hand and you know it's coming, it's not too much harder. Plus, even if you have to pay like 4 for this because you only have 4 different races in your hand, it's still not a hefty cost for what you get, because essentially you're paying 4 to not only get you're paying 4 to draw a card for 1, untap for free, untap your Resonators for free, and then possibly tap for another stone or J-Activate. So no matter how you think about Alice World, even at like a 4 to 5 cost, what you get for this is just ridiculous. You essentially get everything you would ever want from 1 card. So the play with this, I think, is extremely strong. And then the last cards I have is Blessing of Yggdrasil. I was going to run Grails because it's a human and I thought the race could help, but because I didn't want to miss the Magic Stone of Moonshade or the Light Vapor, I just didn't really want to risk it. Plus, this card kind of makes you want to play a little slower early on, which is actually not so bad. If your turn 2 is a Blessing of Yggdrasil, and you had 2 1-drops and let's say a Gwiber in your hand, you couldn't do the 1-drop Gwiber combo anyway. So I'd much rather go Blessing of Yggdrasil, maybe hit a Light Vapor so that you don't have to worry about not having the right color. If you have, let's say, like a Deep Wood, a Gusting Skies, now you'll get a Light Vapor, and you'll have, light blue, blue green, and light green, so you can play everything in your deck. And then next turn, when you untap and call for a stone and you have 4 stones, you can go, 1-drop Gwiber, and then possibly maybe even another Gwiber if you have 2 of them, or a Jeanne or something. So I think the Blessing is really good. It's also like a semi, of course, ramp card, which is great because the faster you get your stones, the faster you get to Alice World. So it really helps with just the whole kind of theme of the deck. Lastly, for the side, I have a Liberator of Wind. Liberator of Wind says that in the beginning of the game, you get to stack a certain magic stone from your deck on top of your deck. This is so you can grab Moonshade, of course, so that you can still have a first turn Elvish Priest while still having a first turn Cheshire, while still having a first turn Perceval. So it kind of meets every single requirement for the deck. This was the original version Epunk had made. It was using this as the ruler, but I do truly feel that Alice has a really good kind of addition because of how good Deep Blue is with getting a race on the field. The only advantage that I think Liberator has is that On J Activate, you get to search any card in your deck, so searching another copy of Alice World is just amazing. So I think other than that aspect, that's the only thing that Liberator of Wind has better than Alice. Not to mention though that I feel like if you go game 2, this is probably a really good side deck option, and then in game 3 you'd switch back when you're going first. So let's say if you go first with Alice and you win, now you're going to go second and you go into Liberator of Wind, excuse me. You go into Liberator of Wind, and you now have a first turn Elvish Priest for sure, which kind of helps you make up for going second unless they thunder it. But it kind of is a really good switch to going second, because then also searching Alice World later on kind of makes up for going second once again. You get an additional turn as fast as you can, and it's guaranteed because you could search it. So I think Liberator of Wind has a lot of good usages too. I wouldn't particularly say one's better than the other. I just really like that Alice. I feel like Alice has a slight edge because of the soldier play. I really like that you can just kind of get a free soldier from your deck into the field with Deep Blue, and then you also benefit off all of the soldiers you summon and thin your deck. So it's kind of just really nice to know that the more consistent you keep a deck, the better it's going to do, of course. And then 3 Savior of Splendor, this is where all the heavy light comes in. This banishes a Dark Resonator from the field. Gwiber has a problem with Metasopheles, of course, because it can block and kill it. That's one of the cards that I think I don't really like to see. Not to mention stuff like Arthur might kill all your Cheshires and stuff, and you don't want that to happen because you need them on the field for Alice's World. So this takes care of stuff like Arthur as well. Return to Stories. Hamlin is a really big problem for this deck as well, because if he rests your Gwiber, even if he's not killing it, no matter how many times you start your turn over with Alice's World, you're still going to, of course, have a rested Gwiber. So this helps solve kind of like problem cards like that. Not to mention like Cinderella is a really good card to remove from the game, or Snow White as well. One Glimpse of Kaguya. This is specifically for something like Arla or Rezard. Their god abilities will wipe your field 100% no matter how you try to plan for it. It's just extremely powerful, and I mean, Alice can protect you from Arla's god ability, but they're not going to play into it so simply, and they might wait for you to be tapped out, or, you know, there might be times where you kind of flip over Alice to get the Deep Blue to try to go for an Alice World play, and if it's not enough, they'll see that as an opening to just wipe your board with Arla's god ability. Same with Rezard, they'll just make you banish everything and discard your hand, and with Rezard's case, it doesn't even target, so you can't even protect even if you had it open with Alice. So Glimpse of Kaguya is great because it stops god abilities like that are like those. Actually get really good against Valentina too, because if she tries to steal something, you could just glimpse it. 2 Dream of Juliet's. This is mainly for stuff that might be like against heavy removal decks. If they try to kill your Gwibers and you're kind of just trying to set it up and you can't get them in there, this can just blink Gwiber, so it's safe. It also lets you draw a card, you know, if you're in a desperate situation where you don't really need it and you want to dig in for an Alice World possibly. You can even maybe hit like a Speaker of Creation, drop the Speaker, and then grab Alice World, so it's really good in that sense too. And then I've always hated decks that have like Realm of Pure Spirits or something like just out of nowhere, because they're just so good. That card is never really used, but when it is, it really does have an impact on how the game is played. And I like having at least side hate for field spells. You never know what's going to happen, so I'd rather just side 2 of these if I play light. And then because I don't have any counters, but I have a ton of green, I decided to just side all of it. So I have 2 Keen Sense to counter spells and 3 Zeeks to counter summons. Once again, if you're switching to Liberator of Wind, you might want to consider putting the counters in instead of maybe like Blessing of Yggdrasil and stuff, because although it is fine to keep ramping if you're going second, because of course it helps to catch up, it might be a little better to stop their kind of bigger plays that they're going to try to go for as early as possible to try to, you know, put enough pressure on you to slow you down. So because you grab the Moonshade with Liberator of Wind anyway, and you don't really need a specific stone lineup, you could just take 3 blessings out and maybe do 3 Zeeks, and then if you feel as though they're, you know, using maybe Split Heaven and Earth or something, you can put in the Keen Sense. It really depends on what your matchup is. It's hard to say exactly what you would take out and what you would put in. Just keep in mind that, you know, these are all options you can have, and depending on what you're playing against, there are all these different choices you can make. So that's just the entire side deck. So thanks a lot for watching, guys. If you guys do have any questions or suggestions, please feel free to leave a comment in the comment section below. I think I might have talked a little faster in this video than usual, which is actually really crazy because I already talk extremely fast as it is. But I think it's because my mouth is dying because my wisdom teeth are really acting up. I've been pushing it off to get them removed, and if I do sometime soon, it might mean I have to put a halt on the videos because I'm not going to be able to talk with like a swollen mouth. But I'm really sorry if this video might have been like even faster than usual. I really try to kind of pay attention to it and try not to do it as much as I can, but it is kind of just a habit of how I talk, so sometimes I just don't notice it and just kind of keep blabbing on. But yeah, if it is faster than usual, I'm really sorry. The deck list will be in the description, so just check that out and maybe you can kind of hopefully catch up on what I was saying if you see the list itself. Or if you take a look at the cards again. If you guys haven't subscribed though yet, make sure you do, because I do have Perceval's deck profile coming tomorrow, a possible story video coming next week if I do have to not get my teeth pulled that soon. And then I kind of have an announcement to make for tomorrow in general for the channel, and then something for CoreTCG, which is actually really awesome, that I'll show you guys tomorrow. And then yeah, that's kind of it. I will of course catch you guys next time.